Westworld Season 4 just ended, which means a lot of people out there have a bunch of questions about what they just watched. So I'm here to help add some clarity to the ending and give you my analysis on Season 4. So let's just get into it. In Westworld Season 3, Episode 3, Delores' version of Charlotte Hale claimed that it felt like the original Hale was trying to take back control, which is the reason Hale kept chipping away at her host's body, claiming that it felt like the OG Charlotte Hale wanted to cut into her skin and rip her out of her head. Hale became just like the original Charlotte, as she watched over her son and fixed things up with her partner, eventually choosing a life with her family over Delores' plan of supposedly ending humanity. The host version of the Man in Black, or the Host in Black, also suffered from the same side effects of having the original human tamper with its motives, because host William had a piece of the original William within his code. OG William was spreading throughout host William's brain like Charlotte's original self spreading through Hale, causing them to follow a different narrative and turn them into something more like the human they're based on. Host William's final transformation takes place in the episode titled Metanoia, meaning a change in one's way of life resulting from penitence or spiritual conversion. Host William appeared to be a combination of Wyatt, Delores, Hale, and William, so in the end, he ended up going against both the hosts and the human race. By the way, I really love the song choice of playing The Man Who Sold the World by David Bowie at the end of Season 4, Episode 7, Metanoia. First of all, the song title perfectly matches how William was owning Westworld and selling everyone's data and consciousness, while at the same time funding the creation of the hosts in the park like Delores and Bernard, which would eventually lead to the destruction of the world. David Bowie himself also claimed that The Man Who Sold the World was a sequel to the song Space Oddity, the song that was playing in Season 3 when Delores broke everyone out of their loops. When discussing his creation of the song The Man Who Sold the World, David Bowie went on to say that he wrote it because there was a part of himself that he was looking for. That song for him always exemplified the kind of feeling you have when you're young, when you know there's a piece of yourself that you haven't really put together yet. You have this great searching, this great need to find out who you really are, perfectly matching the theme of Westworld and the Man in Black storyline, where William goes from this version of himself who doesn't quite know who he is yet, and then he transitions to this.
And I finally understand my purpose. I'm the good guy, so I'm gonna wipe out every host from the face of this earth, beginning with you two. So kill me now, or I'll kill you later.
And I guess he really meant that. Throughout the series, the Man in Black is constantly at odds with himself, trying to determine who he really is and whether or not he's in control. In that one song that we're still talking about, the lyrics changed from "Who knows, not me, I never lost control" to "Who knows, not me, we never lost control," implying that Bowie was confronting a different version of himself. Same as the Man in Black, who is at times literally confronting different versions of himself. The usage of the lyric "we never lost control" is indicative of William's code being able to take over the host and continue his original plan of destroying the hosts, as host William comes to the conclusion that the hosts, who are made in the image of their creators, are in fact no different from them, and they're all better off going extinct, while at the same time giving the original William what he's always wanted: a little thing called death. But I don't think death is gonna free William quite yet. The Man in Black is in a prison of his own sins, and like a host in the original Westworld, he can't escape it, no matter how many times he dies. At the end of Season 2, Episode 10, The Passenger, there's this ending credit scene where host William runs into his daughter Emily, who is now also a host and is conducting a baseline interview to verify William's fidelity. Just normal father-daughter activities. It's the same exact test that we saw James Delos go through. It's not clear why exactly they're testing him, like why would you bring back the one person who's responsible for the destruction of humanity? But we know that the test is being conducted in the ruins of Westworld, which is where the last of humanity is supposedly hiding out. During this season, as in Season 4, I thought it was going to be revealed that Hale and the other hosts were testing William in order to further analyze the outliers and find out how they work. You know, the thing that Hale did to Caleb this season, specifically doing it because she really wanted to know how Caleb resisted the fly's control. But it appears that this after credit scene in Westworld happens much further down the timeline, as Emily mentions that the system is long gone, and the first and only time we've seen a host version of William is within the current storyline, and that was like a Hale, Delores, and William hybrid. We haven't seen William get 278th yet. It's very possible that this post-credit scene takes place during Season 5. As everything in Season Season 4, including Maeve and the other remnants of Westworld, are covered in sand. And in this after-credits scene, the ruins of Westworld are also filled with that sand. So the setting of this post-credits scene perfectly matches the conditions of the current timeline, also making me think that this post-credits scene is going to be taking place in the real world and not the Sublime. In the Season 4 finale, Stubbs claims that the Delos experiments never worked because the body always rejected the mind, which I'm over here going like, thank you, Stubbs, that's a great reminder, because it makes me very curious, is Emily a host or is she a host-human hybrid? The events taking place in this after-credits scene could be in Season 5, and it could be centered around them actually cracking the Fidelity test. We end Season 3 during the war on the system that Rehoboam set up for humanity, and we start Season 4 7 years after those events. However, Caleb is just doing the same old stupid job he was doing before the war. It appeared that nothing changed, and humanity was just falling back into their loops. Anyway, it's revealed that the current timeline is actually 23 more years in the future than previously thought. Caleb is now a host, Maeve is buried in the area that she went boom in, Hale enslaved all of humanity, and Bernard is just still sitting on that bed. So at this point, it's like being in a relationship with me. No one's having a good time. At the end of Season 2, Delores left the key to the Sublime inside the mind of Bernard. At the end of Season 3, Bernard accesses the Sublime to play out every single possible path that the humans and hosts will take in order to find that one path that will save the world. Hale had this new version of Delores made and stuck her in a tower controlling all of the humans. Delores is at the center of this tower, which is at the center of this structure that is designed like the maze. The interior design of the building is also modeled after the white material that makes up the hosts. Hale was specifically having Delores create new narratives for all the humans in the real world, recreating the structure of Westworld but applying it to humans and on a mass scale. Bernard spent 20 years observing different pathways humanity would take. Actually, scratch that, time moves way faster in the Sublime. So from Bernard's relative perspective, he was in there for way longer. But anyway, out of the 20 years worth of pathways, Bernard saw that Delores was the last hope for both humanity and the hosts. Bernard saw that humankind is definitely gonna go extinct. However, Delores had been observing humanity for all those years, and would be able to recreate them in the Sublime the same way that she recreated Teddy in her simulation, by using her memory of them. Bernard used his key to access the Sublime and leave it open, specifically leaving it open for Hale. Hale over here kept her scars because she wanted a reminder of what humans did to her. Yet this season she is bleeding from her skin the same way that she was back in Season 3. My interpretation of this is that it's her humanity breaking through. Hale was trying to transcend and get away from the human aspect of herself. William's actions of sending out that signal and telling every human to unalive each other would not just result in the death of pretty much every human, but would also result in the death of pretty much every host as well. Meaning Hale ultimately failed in her plan of creating a new world for the hosts. After listening to Bernard's video message that he left for her, Hale understood what needed to be done for her kind and subsequently humankind. Bernard gives Hale a choice of giving Delores a choice to run the final test on humanity. One more game to see if humanity can change and not self-annihilate within the Sublime. After putting Delores in the Sublime, Hale destroys herself, making the choice to end her narrative and give the story of the humans and hosts over to Delores. In Season 4, William truly becomes the antithesis of Delores. William and Hale choose to see the ugliness in the world, the disarray. The main reason Hale kept her scars was because she wanted a constant reminder that humans were beyond saving. But in the end, Hale, in a sense, chose to see the beauty as she gave humanity another chance. And up until the very end, William was just hellbent on seeing the ugliness. This new version of Delores is choosing to see the beauty of the world, taking that mindset into the Sublime to essentially restart humanity. So I'm pretty sure that Delores recreating humanity with that perspective is going to help change everyone for the better, so they can set themselves free from their natural loops. I freaking love the fact that Delores is recreating humanity with just her mind, because there is one scene in particular that I can't get out of my mind. In Season 1, Episode 10, Ford analyzes Michelangelo's The Creation of Adam, depicting the moment where God gave humanity life and purpose. Mind you, this is the scene that Ford presents Bernard, a creation that he made from the memory of Arnold. You know, doing a similar thing as someone else we know. Anyway, Ford goes on to point out that in the painting, there's something hidden in plain sight, and that would be the shape of the human brain, signifying that the divine gift does not come from a higher power, but from our own minds, which is exactly what ends up happening as Delores becomes a god in the Sublime. I have always felt that the outliers weren't the disease of society, they were the cure for it. When the human world was run by Rehoboam, Será found that many people, including his own brother, were in this small population of outliers. In Serac's mind, these unpredictable outliers who were causing trouble meant that there was no future for their AI-run world. Rehoboam sent these outliers to high-risk sectors like war, doing this to dispose of these outliers, but if Será really wanted to stop the destruction of humanity, he would have been doing the inverse. Rehoboam considered Delores, William, and Caleb to be some of these outliers. The one thing I feel hasn't been getting enough attention this season is how Caleb resisted the control of Hale after she infected him with the flies. Caleb is able to fight off the commands of Hale and not kill Maeve. So like, what gives? Westworld is a place designed around indulging in your darkest desires, or to better put it, violent delights, where the guests are under the impression that no one is watching or judging, allowing them to be their worst true selves. Someone like Caleb went against his darkest desires and spared the hosts one night without being taken advantage of by the park guests, or in this case, soldiers. We deal with the theme of free will a lot within Westworld, and in the logic of the show, free will does exist, as Delores goes on to explain.
Free will does exist, Caleb. It's just hard.
Caleb is able to override his biological programming by not indulging himself in unethical behavior, even though he's under the assumption that no one is watching, choosing to be a good person for no other reason than trying to do the right thing. The outlier overriding his biological code gave him the ability to override another thing that was also trying to take away his free will. And trust me, I know him needing to get back to his daughter is definitely what helped him later on. I feel like Caleb's case definitely further emphasizes the point that humans can change, and they do have free will, meaning Delores' experiment in the Sublime will most likely be successful. So it's about an unreasonable time the next day, and I really want to get some sleep. So we'll just call this video part 1, and I'll focus on making part 2 this week. So if you want to see more Westworld content like this, you know what to do. Plant a tree, also subscribe, do all that stuff. Anyway, thanks for watching.